Hello, Grace Community Church. We are on February 20th reading. We're looking at Leviticus chapter 12 through chapter 14, verse 32. Now, this is a pretty extensive reading of the purity laws found in this book. Now, for modern people, we look at this and we're thinking, why are there so many laws about clothing and skin rashes and zits and also menstrual cycles and giving birth? This seems very primitive. Well, I do want you to see that every culture has its own idea of what is pure and clean or impure and unclean. Now, if you were to go into a restaurant right now and you saw rats scurrying around, you would turn around and leave because that is unclean, that is impure. What's your first instinct when you see a homeless person on the side of the road who's covered in dirt and smells? Do you want to get closer to the homeless person? Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't want to get closer, but our first instinct is not we want to draw nearer because we understand that there is some unclean situation going on there. Now, if you were to go to a hospital and you saw that the doctors were not washing their hands, you would leave. You would not want to get treated there because we understand that that is impure, that is not clean. And that actually wouldn't happen because everyone in our culture understands that that is impure if you do not wash your hands as a doctor or a nurse. Every culture has cleanliness laws. You look at our sciences. There are things that we put in place to make sure that experiments are not contaminated. In philosophy, you want to think about what makes life the best. How do we live the most pure and full life? That's what philosophy talks about. So we have these understandings that there is purity, there is impurity, and we seek after purity. Now these laws are really to separate Israel from other cultures. And really, these are probably the most hygienic laws that you see within any culture before our modern technologies. God is allowing for and teaching them how to be hygienic, how to make sure that they're not spreading disease, how to make sure that they are purifying themselves, washing their hands, washing their bodies, washing their clothes, so that they are not sitting in filth. But there's also another aspect to that, and that is that God is so holy. He's the creator of life, that he cannot be in the presence of death or decay. Now, that's why these purity laws are so important, because God is the creator and the sustainer of life. And so those who are unclean through the discharge of life or through the presence of decay indicates that they are going into the presence of the Lord without understanding of his holiness. And so these sacrifices are there to help bridge the gap between our uncleanness and God's holiness. We see that there is another instance of when blood needs to be put on the ears and the thumbs and the toes, that we would be sanctified in our listen, that our listening would be holy, our working would be holy, our walking would be holy. We saw that in the anointing of Aaron in Exodus, and we see it here again. God is concerned that we understand what the penalty is of sin and what he is doing by connecting us to him. Now, we see that the cleanliness laws also make provision for those who are poor. And that's important because that shows us that God cares not just about those who can afford the best animals, but for those who can't afford it. That they are allowed to be in the presence of God as well. He is allowing and bringing people who are rich or poor into his presence if they desire it. Now, one thing that we see here is that these laws are all about external cleanliness. Now you might say, and people have said, well, these laws are done away with. Jesus doesn't care about external cleanliness. And that is, to a certain degree, true. But Jesus still cares about your purity. But it's not just outer purity, it's inner purity as well. He says what goes into a person doesn't make them unclean, but what comes out of a person makes them unclean. So he's saying that, yeah, you might have skin disease, you might have something else going on your body, or you might have eaten something that wasn't necessarily the best for you. But what really makes you unclean is what's in your heart. And so while these Levitical laws teach us that God is holy and he cannot be in the presence of unholy or impure things without provision of blood, Jesus provides the sacrifice in his own blood, but he says your hearts need to be pure now. So the question I have for you to close off this discussion is, what impurity is growing under your skin? What impurity is growing under our skin that we need Jesus to cleanse us from, that we can be holy as he is holy, that we can be in the presence of God? We recognize through the impurity laws, the purity laws, that God does want us to be in his presence. And through Jesus, the sacrifices have been made, but our hearts also need to make a decision whether we are going to focus on loving God or we're going to allow impurities to grow underneath our skin. So think about that today. Are you going to let impurities grow in under your skin, or are we going to ask Jesus to reveal them so that we can become clean through his blood? I hope you enjoyed the reading today. God bless you.